So my name is Taylor Smith, and I'm interviewing you today with the Turner African American Services Council, also known as TAS, to learn more about the Great Migration that occurred in the U.S. from the 1910s to the 1970s. So one of my interest for this project stems because since my parents aren't from the U.S., they're immigrants actually, I thought that it'd be a perfect opportunity to learn more about the lives of African Americans and what their lifestyles were like during the early to mid 20th century. My interview is just a series of questions that I would like for you to respond to and to the best of your ability. So anything that you know or remember or heard from family members about your moving from the South to the North. It's just supposed to be a friendly conversation, so if at any time you feel uncomfortable with the question, please just let me know, and I will also be taking notes because, yeah. And to start off, can I get a bit of background information, like your date of birth and your age and like where you were born and stuff like that?
Okay. My name was actually Jerene Bowens. I was born in East Point, Georgia. My birthday is October the 19th, 1939. And I grew up in East Point, Georgia. I attended East Point Elementary and South Wilton High School. I graduated from South Wilton High School in 1957. I'm from a family of 7 children. I'm the oldest of the 7. We grew up in East Point, which was a small town, which was highly segregated. That's why I went to East Point Elementary and South Fulton. This was an all-black neighborhood and all-black school. Out of the 7, like I said, our chain has broken this year, and 2 years ago I lost a brother, but the rest of my siblings are still alive. We live in several areas. I have a brother here in Michigan, in Canton, Michigan, and him and his wife and family. I have a brother and his wife and family in Union City, Georgia. I have a sister and her family, and they are in Atlanta, Georgia. Then I also have a sister that lives in Oakland, California, her and her family. I have a son who lives in Tulsa, Oklahoma. He has 4 children, and I'm a great-grandmother. I have 4 grands and 4 great-grand. I've been in Ann Arbor since 1964. I migrated from Georgia to here. Since then, I have worked in the area doing several different jobs. Because when I left Georgia, I was working in the retail area. Then when I moved here, I had some banking classes, so I applied to work in the banks in Ann Arbor. Didn't get hired right away, but I did apply. So I went back to school and started working on trying to get an associate degree so that I could further myself in finding work. I got hired at the University of Michigan, but of course in the time between that, I got pregnant and I had my son in 1966, and then after that, I got a divorce, and my son and I continued to live in Ann Arbor. I got a job at the University of Michigan, working as a nurse's aide, and I worked there a couple of years. But in the process of working at U of M, I got injured on the job, so I had to leave the University of Michigan because of the injury. Because of the injury, it was so severe, I was able to connect with Michigan Rehab, and they sent me back to school. I was able to go back to Washtenaw under the rehab program, and I was able to finish Washtenaw Community College and obtain my associate's degree in business management in 1984. But in the process, I reconnected to a church, which happened to be Bethel AME. So me and my son, we migrated to Bethel AME. We lived on the other side of town, but we came to visit and we liked Bethel, so we came and connected with Bethel AME. So I've been in this area well over 50 years. All the things in between, I moved from the west side of town to University Townhouse. And my son, he went to Pioneer High School. And in the process, he was going to Pioneer and I was going to Washtenaw Community College. So this was our journey every day. So when I graduated, he also graduated the same year. He graduated from high school and I graduated from Washtenaw Community College in 1984. Afterwards, my son went to the service. Then I was still trying to find my niche of where I was going to work, because I got hired again in a bank, which was Michigan National, but that was turning out to be a dead-end job. I couldn't utilize my skills that I had trained for. So I connected with a family member of mine she was a licensed daycare provider. So I liked what she did, and she showed me how to get involved, in which I did. After that, I got my license. My sister moved away. I was living with her in the southwest side of town, I'm sorry, which was Arbor Oaks, which they call it Stony Brook. So I lived in a house there, and she left and went to California, so I stayed in her house. Then that's when I established my child care. My first year in child care, I had 6 young babies in my daycare, because my license was for 6. But the word got out that I was doing daycare in the area, so the need got greater, so I went to 12 youth. So I was licensed for 12. In the process, I made lots of friends through my church and through my community, which was the Arbor Oak subdivision, which they call Bryant Community. I connected with the Bryant Community Center for some resources, and they helped me. Then I joined their advisory board, and I worked in the community. And we did a lot of beautiful things. We was able to help families in the community. We was able to get an area for parents to get health care, because at the time, Bryant Communities had a house, and this was used as a health facility. But the city eventually gave Bryant a house, another house, which we moved to and we utilized it. We did neighborhood beautification program. I was part of the Parks and Rec Commission. I got voted to do that. I got numerous awards for working in my community, because we did have a tragedy. A young lady got killed in our community. So we had to try to heal our community. So I connected with the public school system, Ann Arbor public school system, and we were able to get the community to come together and do prayerful things, to try to bring our community back together, which we did. And then a program was created through Scarlett Miller School for us to have something for our young people to do. So we had a program through the city of Ann Arbor where we had 12-year-olds up to 15 years old to give them something to do. We found jobs, we found mentors, we found people to work with our youth so that they would not get in any more trouble after the tragedy. In the meantime, I'm still working with my daycare. I was in my sister's house, and I was there for 10 years. Then, like I said, the business grew. So I launched out and made other things happen for the business. I started doing pickup and drop off, because I was able to hire staff to work and to cover me. So I would drop off kids to the Bryant Elementary School and to the Pangill School to make sure they got to school on time. But the kids at Bryant, a lot of times we walked, we didn't drive, because I live right near the school. Down through the years, we with lots of things that we've done, and I changed my name twice. I started out as Rainbow Daycare, and that was because I had a multifaceted of kids. I didn't only have black kids. I had white and Chinese kids as well, so we changed it to Rainbow. But then after that, after I moved from my sister's house on Metro, I moved to Champaign in a bigger place, and I changed it to bed and breakfast extended hour, 24. Once I was doing 24-hour care because the business was just that demanding. So I was able to do that, but then I had to just drop to 24 hours because we found that was a bit too much for me. But I still did extended hour bed and breakfast, and kids were being dropped off at my house at 6 in the morning, and we worked from 6 to 6 every day. But if anybody asks you who Miss Jerry is, and I mean you go throughout the whole neighborhood of Bryant, or even through the city of Ann Arbor, because I also connected with the Ann Arbor Community Center, and we had a programs there which was called the GEMS program, and we offered a rites of passage for young people. This was a first for the community that we had. I also connected with the National Association of Negro Business and Professional Women because I was a professional, so I figured I need to get involved with that, which turned out to be a great thing for me because I'm still involved with the Negro Business and Professional Women's Club. I've had many jobs through there, but I was one of the originators of organizing our Ann Arbor Youth Club, and the Youth Club is 16 years old now, and I'm still involved with the Youth Club and still with the National Business and Professional Women's Club. But I wore many hats in there also. A membership director, I helped recruit young ladies to become a member of our club. Then I was a correspondence secretary. Like I said, any type of job that was available, for some reason they always elected me. Like I said, I wore lots of hats. And that come from, even from my business. I was a mentor to the parents as well as a provider for the kids, because I had a lot of young women who brought their kids to me. And I think that it was because we offered great service for the kids, teaching, learning, mentoring, plus our prices was right. We was one of the cheapest child care in the Ann Arbor area. And at that time, I got involved with the Child Care Association, and I networked with other child care providers. We had a lot of training through them, which brought me up to a 5-star rating. But doing licensed child care, you have to be connected with the state. And the state had a lot of rigid rules that you had to follow. But I stuck it out for 30 years. I did it for 30 years. I can't even remember some of the kids that I had in my daycare, not unless I go someplace and somebody said, well, hey, Miss Jerry, you used to keep me, you know, and that just blew my mind, because it's like, I did, no, because we had so many to come through. I mean, we was licensed for 12, but the way the shifts ran, we would have kids coming and going all the time, Monday through Friday. But I'm grateful for the community, and like I said, I got a lot of awards, not only through the Negro Business and Professional Women's Club, but the Eastern Star have given me awards, the City of Ann Arbor have given me awards. You know, but I'm not rising up in pride in that. You know, it was just because of the way I felt I wanted to help and I wanted to be a part of something. So I did my community endeavorment. And I finally retired in 2015. So here I am today because Faye asked me to do this. I no longer live in Ann Arbor. I've gone to a senior place. And I love it. I'm on Carpenter Road. But I've had some health challenges, but through it all, God has blessed me. You can see me now because I've had a stroke, but God has blessed me to where I'm able to drive again and to live a normal life. So that's my story.
Your story is really inspiring. And I really did love hearing how you're like a successful African American in your community, and that's something that I think many people admire. And funny enough, when you said that your brother lives in Canton, Michigan, I actually live in Canton, Michigan.
You do? Well,
I do.
my granddaughter live in Canton too. Her and my great-grand, they live in Canton also. Okay.
So that's pretty cool. And also, when you said that you were that you got injured during your job at U of M, what caused the injury?
I was a nurse's aide, and a student nurse was getting the patient up, and apparently she didn't lock the bed legs, so the bed started rolling, and she had this heavy woman she was trying to lift. She hollered out, so I turned around and went in there to try to help her, but in the process this lady was falling, so I wound up blocking her fall so she wouldn't get injured, but I wound up getting injured because I broke her fall. So I've been living with that forever since it happened, you know.
Well, you sound like you're a very selfless person, and that's something that I really do admire. So one of the questions that I was going to ask you was, what was it like moving from Georgia to here in Ann Arbor? And like, were there any specific reasons for migrating to specifically Ann Arbor? And so, can you please explain?
Yeah, well, I had no plans of leaving Georgia because I was pretty happy, but my husband and I separated, and he moved to Michigan. But at that time, I was not planning on, joining him. But my mother, she divorced my dad after over 25 years, so she came to Michigan. So I came with her. And we landed in Detroit, and of course my ex found out that I was there, so he convinced me to come to Ann Arbor. Coming to Detroit was a big shock because I could not believe how Detroit was. It was a big city and everything was big, even though Atlanta was even bigger, and it was a lot to do there, but that was my home. But then he lived here in Ann Arbor, so I followed him to Ann Arbor. Now that was a complete culture shock because of the smallness of Ann Arbor compared to a place like Atlanta or Detroit. It was really different, to adjust to the things that they had to offer here. And at the time I came, Ann Arbor was not as big as it is now. And when I looked around and saw it, I said, well, is this all it is to Ann Arbor? And then I moved up on campus. That's where we moved to. And that was another shock, seeing people. And it was just amazing to see all these people here going to college and everything. So I was right in the mix when I moved up on campus on State Street. And I got a chance to find out what U of M was all about. So like I said, it was a real culture shock. And then we moved from up on State Street, so then I moved over on the west side of Ann Arbor where there was more blacks, because up on campus there was probably none. Where they were, I didn't see them or didn't know them. And then, like I said, when I moved on the west side of town, I met quite a few blacks, because blacks was in the neighborhood at the time. And that way I got a chance to find out who our people were. And then by me going to Bethel, I really found out, where the people were. And that's how, like I said, I've been here over 50 years, so.
So, how were compared to the healthcare? Because you work a lot in the healthcare and the child care environment, like you said. So how are your family members cared for in Georgia, and how does it compare to now that you're living in Michigan?
Well, like I said, when I grew up, I was in the neighborhood. It was a divided neighborhood naturally, so the healthcare was not that great. I can remember my grandparents and a lot of things that happened to us growing up. They did self-care. We didn't have a clinic or a doctor. Mom had a doctor that she knew where we could go get our shots and stuff, but there was not you have neighborhoods that have healthcare facilities. We didn't have that. And at that time, we had a doctor that maybe come to the neighborhood once a week to see the sick and the elderly. But we had a lot of people, like I said, this one lady who, when she died, she was 124 years old, but she gave my parents them a lot of remedies to help us be healed. You know, we didn't have everything that everybody else had, you know. But through faith and everything, you know, they used everything, you know, because we got bee stings, we stepped on nails and everything else, and they did pull out the old-fashioned remedies to make sure, you know, we didn't get really sick, you know, so.
So would you say that when you moved up to Michigan that the care was better for you then?
Well, like I said, when I left and came here, integration was open, you know, but when I grew up, it was not, you know. And here was like a entirely new world for me in a lot of areas. Cause like I said, to get hired at the University Hospital and everything, you know, that was great. And to have my baby, you know, even though he wasn't born in Ann Arbor, in fact, I had him 2 months early. He's a 7-month baby, but I was in Detroit. So I had the baby down there, and I mean, I think, well, you know, growing up in the South, the segregation was really bad. Who knows what they would have done? They probably wouldn't have let me have my baby at a hospital like it was in Detroit. So, you know, but I was still able to come back here because I had my own doctors and everybody here. But like I said, it was an entirely different thing for me especially.
Okay, thank you. So, like, sorry, 1 second. Was some of like your family like? Because I know that you said that you weren't really planning on moving from Georgia to Michigan. Were any of your other family members like disappointed or like?
Well, my siblings, you know, nobody wanted Mama to leave, you know, but she had found her way. She had found some friends in Detroit and had helped her find a job. So I figured, well, she's going, I'm gonna go with her, because I didn't have no kids or anything. So I'm going with her. So maybe I can get a job and settle in Detroit. I had no idea that, really and true, that I was gonna wind up here in Ann Arbor, you know. But following her, I was looking for a new way to do something, you know, a change of lifestyle.
Okay, sorry, I'm just writing it. So, would you say that like your family benefited from moving from the South to the North? And what were like some of the sacrifices that like maybe your mom had to make? Or, like,
One of the biggest sacrifices, she had to leave my brothers when we both came here, because we left my 3 brothers in Georgia with my sister. She had to leave them. And that the reason was she was going to get them eventually, but she had to get herself settled. So once she got working and got herself settled and a place to stay, I went back home and transferred my brothers back here to Michigan. And they lived in Southwest Detroit. That's where my mother lived, because she worked at the hospital in Southwest Detroit. So, you know, that was one of the biggest sacrifices she had to make. And then to get my brothers in school and everything in a new place, so that was a big sacrifice. And see, I lived in Ann Arbor, so I wasn't able to do a lot to help us, so it all kind of fell on her, you know, getting them situated. But thanks be to God, we had a lot of people that came to our rescue that helped us find our way, you know. And it was good to have well, they weren't actually family, but these were deep friends that my mother had made. And then after I got here, I made some deep friends. This is how doors were able to open for us to be able to stay in the area, you know.
So would you say that like the community that you have now, you still like talk to them, and you still like use them if you need them? Like,
well, I moved away from the actual community where I did the daycare for 30 years, but a lot of them are still there, and people have moved all around, and I still have communication with them. And then by me being actively involved in the community, a lot of people still know me from the community. And then the different places that I, like the NANBPWC Club, that's a group of people that I connected with. So I still have people, and through my church, you know, we still have connecting and we still can communicate, because that's how face stay in my face all the time. But like I said, just being able to maneuver and get to be known and to know people is a great thing to have in your life, you know. Because my community that I'm in now is a senior place. I'm just getting to know some of the people there. But I still rely on my friends from the other areas that where I lived and who I communicated with and everything. We still keep up with each other.
That's nice. I think that like a deep community and like a connected community, that's really important to have, because that's like really important in like everybody's life. So that's nice that you found that community even though you moved away
Right.
previously.
And like I said, I still run into kids that was in the daycare. They're grown, they're married, some of them have kids. In fact, I had one of the parents text me and ask me, could I take her kid to school? She wasn't even aware that I no longer did daycare. Because when I stopped doing daycare, that was a big blow, because I had one of the biggest area where I connected with people. And people were still asking me, don't you want to go back and do daycare? No, it's time out. No, because I enjoyed it. 30 years is a long time to give her your service, but it never changed my heart about children, older people, because I have great love for them. Because my grandmother lived to be 92, my mother lived to be 85, you know, and I had connected pieces with them because we were a family. We're known as the family of love from all over the United States, because we have family members all over. And a lot of that was taught from growing up where I came from, you know. We did look out for each other, we loved one another, and we have always kept the communication open, you know, with our family members. And we've lost a lot of them. We used to have 5 generations of family members, but the early members are all deceased, you know. So now we're looking at maybe second or third generation, because I got grandchildren and great-grandchildren, but past me, most of the family members are all deceased, you know. And we trace our roots back to Sparta, Georgia. That's where my grandmother and my granddaddy, they came out of Sparta, Georgia, and they both were Indian families. My grandmother and my granddad both come from Indian family. So, you know, we got longevity, or we got long ancestry history, but a lot of the history makers are no longer here, you know.
So, so throughout your whole like backstory and throughout your whole bio, I was just wondering, have you ever like revisited your old home to see like what has changed, or like what it compares to now from like what you remember in the past to the present?
Yeah, well, we went home last year, my sister next to me, because my mother had us like 2 and 3 years apart. We did her a surprise 80th birthday, so we drove to Georgia. And where we stayed, it was like, it used to be an old neighborhood where we grew up in, but everything has changed, you know. Everything is connected. Atlanta, East Point, College Park, all of them are right there, you know. You go from one place to another. But a lot of the old landmarks are gone. My high school and my elementary school, they're gone. But we was able to visit the landmark where our high school was, because years ago, after I graduated, after high school was gone, because the integration changed all that, we all bought bricks, and we have our bricks with our names in the area, which is nice. It's a landmark for us when we return back home. And a few years I did go to class reunions back home, which was a treat. But see, things have changed, and the class members, a lot of them are no longer here also. But I made a connection just recently on classmate.com, and I found out that some of them are still alive, and we started communicating again. Because 1957, that's been a long time. That's like 75 years ago. Half my life it was out of high school, you know. So, but like I said, I keep the line of communication open with my baby sister and my sister that's next to me, because they have families and everybody. One of them live in College Park and the other one live in Atlanta. They're just right there together. And my brother's in Union City, so we still have a connected piece as far as the family go, you know, so.
That's really cool that you like reconnected with like your past, I keep saying what's I'm so sorry. With your past home, because I think it's important to not like forget your roots. And
Right.
to like always remember like where you're from.
Mhm.
And also, do you think that like society as like a whole has changed in like different aspects of life,
Like education and like healthcare and like social structure per se?
Yeah, you know, you can look around and see, you know, things have changed. Socially, you know, we got so much technology out here, and then you have to worry about, right now, because of the pandemic, you know, that's a big healthy issue, you know, because we don't know if we're safe or not. And I mean, they're doing everything for us preventive maintenance for this pandemic. But right now, we've had to adjust to a different lifestyle, a new norm. Now, we can't go back to the old way things used to be, even though we have opened up things quite a bit, you know, but still, this is something that's going to be with us, I believe, for a long time. You know, in my way of thinking, we will never go back to doing the things that we used to do. I mean, you can just look around and we're constantly being bombarded with a lot of negativity about this pandemic. You know, you hear a lot of things about that. And then you hear a lot of things where we're divided as a country. We're not together as people should be, you know. And I don't know if we'll ever get back to where we can be undivided. Because right now it's a big wedge between people, you know, and as a black person, I come up in segregation, and we're almost back to where that started. You know, I grew up in a neighborhood where the Ku Klux Klan marched, you know, and this is the kind of stuff I saw and that I was able to get away from. But then now, you don't have to be in the South for these things to happen because of all the divisiveness and all the hatred that's being spewed, you know, and I don't know where we're going to land, you know, when it's all over, you know, because it's a sad situation that we're in right now.
Yeah,
I mean,
it seems like the country's like
and we're going backwards, and you know, and our leadership, you know, you don't be comfortable with who's leading, who's head of things, because I mean, the whole package right now we're looking at, everything is centered around greed and money. Ain't no love right now. If you don't have it, shame on you, you know. And I mean, we get a few benefits. You have a few things that can be passed down to you, you know, your Medicare and all that stuff, but it's still not equally divided. It's not right, because there's a lot of people that are homeless, a lot of people is hungry right here in the United States, you know, and this is something that we grew up with not having everything, but we were never homeless and we were never hungry because our parents was able to provide for us. But now the provisions are drying up, and all the big money is at the top. You know, we have to be real about that. It ain't about us no more. And if you survive, you're doing great. You know, and I'm thankful that I have a father, my Father God. He's the provider for me, and I trust him to continue to provide for me. But there's a lot of people that's suffering, and I don't have the resources. If I could, I would reach out and try to help as many people as I could, you know, because we're supposed to help one another. But like I said, the divisiveness and there's so much mean-spirited stuff. And the sad part with me is seeing our children lose their lives. My biggest issue is the guns. I wish we could eradicate all of that, you know, because when our babies die, that takes a part of me, you know, and this is what we have to look at as a country and as people, you know. We got to get it together. We are going to be lost, you know, because all you have to do is look around at the climate change. And I mean, our government system is, my own feeling, and I'm being recorded, but it's a horrible system, you know. It's very divisive, you know, and the people that are dividing us, you look at them, they leaders in their own states, and they have people hungry, homeless, living poor, but they keep putting these people back into power where they don't need to be. Right, they're not changing anything. And I can remember when we got that last president, he said he won't send us back 50 years. He succeeded in that. You know, he's changed the whole structure. And I feel sorry for the people that believe him and follow him, because my own feelings, he's not a righteous man, you know. He's all about himself, and people can't see it, you know. So I'm just hoping that somewhere down the line that will change again, because we do need a big change, because we're burning up fires, floods, everything that you can think of that was biblically expressed. If you read your Bible, we're seeing things that we have never seen before because of what's going on. So, you know, I'm just praying that we can come back together, or I may not be here to see it happen, but, you know, I hope it happens for my grandkids or my great-grandkids.
Yeah, he's like, I'm not spreading any hate on like the past like presidency, but I feel like he's spread a lot of like seeds of hate into lots of people's minds, and that's been really bad for a country because we're all divided now. And I understand that people have different beliefs, but that doesn't mean that those beliefs should be meant to be hating on people or to be expressing hate and anger and greed and stuff like that. But with you, with all your help that you've done for your community, I think that people should take an example from you, because you've shown that how much you love your community, how much you care for your community. But it's just really sad to see how it kind of looks like we're spiraling backwards, and now we're going downhill from the country that we're supposed to be, the land of
right.
free. Yeah.
I mean, this is supposed to be the greatest place in the world.
That's why everybody comes
That's
here.
why everybody comes here, you know, and then to see people trying to stop people from coming here, and they forget the majority of the people that came here from other countries looking for a better place. Then you look at how they did the poor Indians. You know, they came, they took. And like I said, I have feelings because my family have Indian background. There was Indians in my family. You know, so, you know, you're looking at how they were mistreated. You know,
now you look at how
I'm looking at how we're being mistreated. Then you got people from other countries, other nationalities. Anything brown is being mistreated, you know, and that really saddens me, because they have just as much right to find a good place to live, to raise their kids and everything. But who would ever thought the United States? But I guess this, when you look at it, I guess this was what it was going to be eventually. And my feelings is, when the white man took over, they stole everything from everybody, and they still stealing. See, this is the whole key. They're taking, they want to be the superior one, but they keep forgetting somewhere down through the slavery time, white and black was still mixing. There's a whole lot of mixed bred people. Some of them could have black blood in them, but all that hatred, they hate everything that's black or brown. But they don't really, they haven't checked their own ancestry. They forgot, you know. And then, like I said, you look around today, you see mixed kids. White and black is still mixing. They can't stop that. But to hear the ones that spout the hatred and stuff, they don't want no parts of it. But if they look in their families, a lot of their sons and daughters are mixing. I mean, the races are still mixing, and they can't stop that. But to have the mindset that they are the superior one. But they have to remember that God made all of us, every last one of us, you know.
Exact image of
Right, you know, but this is where we are.
It makes me wonder though that if they keep on taking, like, will there be anything more to take, you know, because eventually you reach a limit. So what happens when you reach that limit? What are you going to do? And so I just wish that they would, like, see, like, what their hatred and, like, what they're doing is actually and how it's, like, affecting everything. And that maybe that there is not one superior race, and that the central idea that, like, oh, white is superior and anything else is inferior, that it needs to be erased for the future generations to come, because we can't keep going down backwards like this. Cause
Right. Well, I worry about my grandkids and people like you. You know, you guys are young. We can't even see a future for you guys.
especially with, like, all the gun violence,
Yes.
and all the riots and all the hatred, it looks kind of
It looked really desolate, but I believe in prayer, and I think as a people, if we stay prayerful, that God is going to change that. It's going to be just a matter of time, and like I said, I may not be alive to see it because we don't know when it's going to happen. But change will have to come because you can only go so far, and it seemed like they down to the killing. That's about as far as they can go. What else can they do to people? You know, this is what you have to look at, that it's going to have to end eventually. And maybe we can come together with lots of love for one another. And that means me and you and all of my families, we need to love on each other.
definitely.
Because that's the only thing that's going to keep us here, that love. Because that hatred is a destructor, because that person that's in charge, he kills, steals, and destroys. And that's what's happening right now. So.
That reminds me of something that Martin Luther King said in one of his speeches. He says, only love and faith can drive out the hate, and only the light can drive out the darkness. That's always been one of my favorite quotes by him. So, I really do like how you think that, like, that you believe that your faith and love, it can definitely drive out hate. And I do believe that one day we will get to the point where we drive out hate and everything else that's bad in this world. So
Yeah, because we come a long ways, you know, through Martin Luther King time. We did quite well, you know, but we never fully arrived, you know, because you're going to always have those naysayers and all those hatred.
Definitely.
Those people are always going to be there, you know.
Exactly.
So sometimes you think, well, we're fighting a losing battle, but we're not. We just have to hang in and continue to love on each other. We can't give up. We can't let it go and let him win. The devil can't win.
Definitely not.
Okay, that's my motto. He cannot win. He will not win. His time is coming to an end too, you know.
So other than my last question, other than, like, faith and love, do you have, like, any advice to, like, future generations, or, like, just, like, the present, and, like, what your mind thinks that could better benefit the future?
Well, for the future, as a race of people, we need to get our kids more actively involved with the churches and learn how to get along with each other, you know. But see, the divisiveness tend to feed over into a lot of people and a lot of hatred, because, I mean, we constantly sin on the news where we're taking out our own people, you know, and that's an area that can need to be rectified, you know, but it's there. And then we got all the gangs and everything, because they're looking for love, they're looking for something. So they go in the way that they go, which they think is the only way. So it's up to the peoples and the community to reach out and try to love on each other. It's kind of hard because a lot of people have been disillusioned, been mistreated, and they don't want to hear nothing you have to say. But I'm not going to stop giving my testimony that God is love. You need God in your life, you know. And that means teaching my granddaughter, my great-granddaughter, they need to get in Sunday school and church, because that's the way we was raised. There was nothing else for us to do but to go to church. You didn't go to movies. You didn't do anything on Sunday. You respected the Sabbath day. And that was it. You know, all we did was church. But that was a good day because that was a preparation to spend the Sabbath day. You know, to get ready to spend your day with God all day. And like I said, kids was mischievous, and growing up, we had lots of fun. And that's another thing. Our kids don't get the opportunity to have fun. They all, and we've given them too much. Anything they want, we give it to them. But when I was growing up, it wasn't that way. You earn what you got. And then, like I said, we didn't have all these toys and things and games that the young people have now. You know, your videos and all that stuff. We didn't have that. We made up our games. My daddy built us a playground. My grandmother would play in the yard with us. We jumped rope, we did jacks, we did things like that. But we had fun. But see, our kids don't know how to have fun no more because of all the violence and all the stuff that comes around it. So, you know, that keeps kids scared to do anything. Because in my daycare, when I bought jump rope, jacks, and things for the kids to play, they looked at me strange. But I taught them how to do jacks, marbles, all these was our games. Those were the only thing that we had. And we made games. We created stuff because we didn't have stuff. You know, to get a bicycle or roller skate at Christmas, that was really something for a family. Like I had seven siblings. So, you know, with my mom and dad, they always made sure we had something for Christmas. But see, we done commercialize everything. You know, everything, there is no sacred time no more. Everything is wide open. Sundays, you can do whatever you want to do. That wasn't the way we was raised. We gave it up for a Sabbath day and we made it holy. But all that's gone, you know.
Yeah, I really feel like lots of kids have forgotten that you have to work and you have to earn what you want, and that not everything can be handed down to you, because that's just not how life works, because life's going to throw you a lot of things, and if you kept getting everything that you want, you're not going to get anything out of life. That's not even living at all. And that's one of the lessons that my parents instilled on me, that I have to work for what I want, because I know that for the way that I look, I know that for me being African American, I'm not going to get anything that I want. I have to work for what I want. I have to earn what I want. And I think that's a very important lesson that
Right. And like I said, to still work ethics in kids now is, I'm not going to take that job. I'm not going to work at McDonald's. They don't pay enough, you know. But then if a Mexican or somebody else come in and get the job, then you got attitude. But you had the same opportunity. Because there are a lot of different races do have good work ethics. That's how they can move up in the world. But our people have always been the kind that be the naysayers, or I don't want to do that kind of work. That's hard work. But I mean, my first job, I made 50 cents an hour. That was all I was paid, you know, but it was money earned because I worked for it. And you have much pride in yourself when you can earn your own way, you know. But see, I know I'm guilty, but well, my son would tell anybody, if I didn't work for it, my mama didn't give it to me, because we didn't have it. You know, we both trying to struggle and survive. So when he worked, he was able to save his money and buy him what he needed, you know. So, but the generations after that, it just went downhill, because I look at my great-grandbaby. She got tablets, she got phones, she got all kinds of stuff. You know, 7 years old, can do all kind of computer stuff and all that. The technology is great. But then, you know, you expecting your mom or your dad to make sure I have these things. Because like I told my granddaughter, you make her clean her room before you give her anything, you know, because the They're not being taught work ethics. And we started early. I was probably about 5 years old. My mother was washing. My sister was born. She tied the baby in the rocket chair for me to watch while she worked. She was washing clothes and stuff. And then, like I said, we all had chores. Every last one of us had something that we had to do. And if you didn't, you was punished for that, you know, and it was good work ethics. And that instilled in all of us. And I'm thankful and I'm proud of my 6 brothers. They all doing good. No one has never been in prison. No one has killed nobody. And we're just thankful for the teachings that was handed down between our mom and my grandmom and the whole neighborhood. We had a neighborhood that kept us in line, you know, so we were thankful for that. But see, now you can't chastise a kid. You can't raise your voice at a kid, because that's child abuse. Because they changed the laws so that you cannot raise your kids in the right way. And see, the kids are being taught that. You can't tell me what to do, you know.
But there has to at least still be like some respect for your elders.
Right.
You shouldn't be thrown completely out the door.
But like I said, the respect is gone. Because I've seen it in young people, and even in my business, some of them was very disrespectful, but I would speak up. A couple of them would want to give me words. And I said, well, you can go ahead and give me words. I said, but I'm going to talk to your mother. I know who your mother is. You're going to respect me, because I'm going to respect you. And they back down. But like I said, a lot of people won't speak up because people are fearful because we don't know where the kids are, you know, mentally. Because there's a lot of things have created a lot of mental challenges in our young people as well. Not only the pandemic, but all the rules and the regs and the stuff they have to go through or is expected of them. And that created a lot of problems for young people, you know. And we don't know how close people are to the edge, especially since the pandemic. You know, you got to do this, and you got to do that, and you can't do this, and you can't do that. So, you know, we're up against a lot.
Well, it was so nice interviewing you, and I really do thank you for taking your time to interview with me, and I greatly appreciate it. I learned a lot of stuff.
Okay. I hope I didn't preach too long.
No, I think everybody here took your words to heart.
Thank you.